To one and all present here. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you all for today's talk series. Today's talk series is based on the topic biological nanocomposites as significant growth promoter as pesticidal agent on crops by Dr. Abhishek Mathur. He is presently working as Executive Officer R&D NCS Groups, Nagpur, Maharashtra in India. Obtained PhD in Biochemistry from Jivaji University, Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. He expertise in the field of natural science, isolation, screening to welcome you all for today's talk series. Today's talk series is based on the topic biological nanocomposites as significant growth promoter as pesticidal agent on crops by Dr. Abhishek Mathur. He is presently working as Executive Officer R&D NCS Groups, Nagpur, Maharashtra in India. Obtained PhD in Biochemistry from Jivaji University, Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. He expertise in the field of natural science, isolation, screening and characterization of secondary metabolites from different microbes and plants, enzymes, biocides, natural antimicrobial, etc. Microbial technologies such as isolation and screening of microbes of industrial significance, as in the part of environment, solid state management, wastewater recycling, bioremediation of ponds and lakes, eco-friendly practices for sanitation and recycling. He also has the experience of almost 14 years in natural molecules of photochemicals related to the pharmacological and agricultural activities, reviewer and member in the editorial board of different international and national journals indexed with his year. The floor is all yours, sir.
Welcome you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you, organizers, for inviting me for the wonderful talk. I'm welcoming all of you, my colleagues, my students, my research scholars, and all the participants of this evening in this session for this particular topic. Now, this topic is actually a burning topic related to the agriculture and nanotechnology. What we are working in the field of nanotechnology in the agriculture sciences as well as in the pharmacological importance, I am describing here in a few seconds, few minutes, and these few minutes will be very important for you. Kindly listen very clearly, very thoroughly, and for any discussion, any queries, you just let me know regarding any aspects, because these few minutes will be very important and beneficial for you. So thank you, the organizers. Thank you, Santosh sir. Thank you everyone for inviting me for the same. And I'm starting here. Sir, kindly enable the share screen.
Yes. Yeah. 1 second, sir. 1 second, sir. Yeah.
Yep.
No, share it, sir.
Yeah. Now it is visible to all of you. Is it visible to all of you? Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible
Yes,
to all of
sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. So my topic for today's session is biological nanocomposites as significant growth promoters and pesticidal agents on different crops. So before coming to the topic, I just want to let you know what are basically nanocomposites, or what is a nanoparticle actually. So nanoparticles are those specific particles having a specific and optimum size, having a dimension of about 100 nanometer or more, less than 100 nanometer, and these are the important wonder molecules in the biological sciences or in the any kind of field of sciences for different pharmacological and other aspects importance. So these nanoparticles are playing a significant role in today's era, where we are aware that different diseases are coming and different new issues are coming through which we are not able to find any kind of cure. and different conventional medicines and drugs are found to be not effective, actually not effective against these agents and these diseases. So the science, the today's science is dealing with exploring different molecules from the plants, from the biological agents, or different kinds of natural molecules from the organisms, microorganisms, which might be beneficial for the pharmacological as well as other industrial importance. So my topic, today's topic, is concentrating on these kinds of nanoparticles and nanocomposites, which can be beneficial for the agriculture in terms of growth promoters and have suitable pesticidal and insecticidal activities on crops. So different, as the human diseases are arising, so different microbes are arising, different agents are arising which are causing the different diseases, and these diseases are very nuisance to us because we are not able to treat them. So similarly is the case for the crops. Right now, we are only suffering from the COVID-19, the coronavirus, which is a new novel virus, and we have no treatment right now for it. And since it is a novel virus, its genome is definitely changing, and we are not able to develop a suitable drug and vaccine till date. So we are adopting only the cure measures. We are only following the preventive measures to avoid such kind of diseases, such kind of infections. So this is the same case for the plants also, same case for the crops also, where these crops are also having also suffering from different diseases, and there are lot many infections, bacterial infections, there are fungal infections, there are viral infections, which are coming day by day, and they are destroying the crops health, and they are destroying the majority of the crops in the field actually. So these are nuisance to those doctors which are known as farmers, and they are decreasing the agriculture productivity and leading to severe destroy of different fields and crops. So the present study is here, current our study, because this nanotechnology or the preparation of nanoparticles are the suitable remedies and the alternative medicines against those particular infections. So here I'm concentrating on different nanocomposites and nanoparticles for treating the pesticide or insect pesticides, and as acting as a pesticides and insecticides on different crops, and also simultaneously act as a growth promoter on different crops. So here coming to the nanotechnology. So what is nanotechnology actually? It is the manipulating or the modification of the materials and systems of different atoms and molecules. We are maintaining the optimum sizes of these molecules and the atoms, and through this particular modification of these atoms and molecules, we are providing a specific activity to them. So these molecules, when are turned into nanoparticle sizes, they are now the miraculous molecules or the wondrous molecules which can be helpful in treating any disease or any kind of preparation, or can be utilized as a suitable agent in food preparations, in agriculture, in pharmacological, on cosmetics, etc., etc. So these nanomaterials are having a specific sizes for 100 nanometers or about less. So a nanometer is about 1 million billionth of 1 meter. That you know that is 10 to the power minus 9 size. Suppose I'm talking about nanometer, 10 to the power minus 9 meter. So nano is a Greek word which means dwarf. 1 nanometer is 1 billion, 10 to the power minus 9 of meter. The size ranges from 0.1 and 100 nanometer. So all the particles which are already available in the nature, or we are modifying any molecule into this particular optimum size, is a nanoparticle. So this nanoparticle of any significance is a miraculous particle and is helpful in that particular property. Now this is a slide showing the scale of the things, different things available in the nature, which are of very small sizes, nano sizes, and the things which are made by the man, by the inventions, which are having very nano size creativities. So in different other sessions, different eminent speakers and my friends have already described the nanotechnology aspects in different fields. So, with reference to them, with reference to their context, I am just describing you because I think you might be the new participants or the new resident people. So, what is nanotechnology and what are the applications of nanotechnology? So, nanotechnology is basically used in different fields of sciences. There might be the engineering field in the electronics, optical engineering and communication, the metallurgy and materials part, the defense systems also for storage of energies, for biotechnological aspects in the terms of biomedical and drug deliveries, agriculture and food, on which I am talking about right now. These are utilized in the cosmetics and paints, definitely different fields of biotechnology, textile engineering, etc., etc. There are several applications of nanoparticles, and these nanoparticles are creating a very good impact on the society. And they are very wonderful molecules because they are helpful in the form, and they have pharmacological action. They have suitable specific properties to maintain the absorption. If I talking about the medical sciences, if I'm talking about the agriculture aspects, they are found to be good growth promoters for the crops. They are found to be good pesticidal agents, insecticidal agents, etc., etc. So here coming to the content, nanoparticles are having the dimension. As I've told you, that is about 100 nanometer or less. They have attracted great attention to the unusual and fascinating properties. They are advantageous in comparison to large size complex molecules, because these nanoparticles are having the tendency to absorb at a maximum depth and to provide a maximum efficacy, maximum effectiveness for the specific property which we are using. So these nanoparticles are very effective, and they can be prepared by different processes. The process can be the physical process, the chemical process, biological process, and there are several hybrid methods are available to synthesize the each different nanoparticles as per their utilization. These nanoparticles also are found, if suppose they are prepared by the biological methods, they are prepared by biological methods, they are found to be least toxic. Definitely, because the biological methods, as we know, the biological methods are always environment friendly. The eco-friendly processes are there. These are biodegradable. These are biocompatible and bioadsorbent. So any process which is biological, and this biological process is forming the nanoparticles, this process and this uh, property of the biological nanoparticles will be very effective in comparison to the particle which is developed by the physical or chemical process. But anyhow, some nanoparticles are prepared in such a manner that there are no biological processes available. They can be prepared only by deforming the shapes, the contracting the sizes, and doing the physical or chemical reactiveness in the molecule to gain the nano size particle. So there are processes available, physical, chemical, and biological. But in my point of view, as per the environmental aspects, the biological processes are very efficient for preparation of nanoparticles. And when I'm talking about the biological processes, as I am a biology student, and working for the researches, different aspects on biological activities. So I'm just concentrating on the biological processes for synthesizing the nanoparticles, and these biological processes can be performed by using the plant extracts, the plant oils are there, the volatile components from the plants are there, which are utilized to develop the nanoparticle, and different microorganisms are also used, which are able to secrete the different enzymes and different molecules to pursue the reduction process and preparation of nanoparticles. So I think most of us are clear with the nanoparticle formation. This nanoparticle formation technology is always a redox reaction process. Redox reaction, as I say, It is a combination of oxidation and reduction process. It is a redox reaction. So nanoparticle when prepared, suppose if I'm talking about the silver nanoparticle means the silver Ag plus ions will be converted into Ag neutral species, and that those means the silver ions have been converted into silver nanoparticles. So this occurs by some agents which are known as reducing agents. Now, reducing agents can be in the form of enzymes released by the microbes, or in the form of plant extracts prepared by the plants, or any kind of molecule which is being used in the biological process for preparation of a suitable nanoparticle. Because these reducing agents are those agents which are able to reduce the specific ion into its reduced form, and itself it gets oxidized. So when we pursue by the biological process for preparation of nanoparticles, we need a reducing agent, and this reducing agent can be utilized in the form of suitable microbial extract, a plant extract, or a plant oil, or something, or some phytochemicals which can be utilized to develop a biological nanoparticle. So through biological processes, there are enzymatic, microbial, and green processes, and these biological processes are also effective in terms of the least expensive nature, because these biological processes are having the low cost substances or agents. Definitely they are biodegradable, they are environment friendly, and they are not costly. They are already available in the nature. Suppose if I'm talking about the microbes, I'm talking about the enzymes, I'm talking about the plant extracts, proteins, peptides, etc., etc. I'm using as a reducing agent for preparation nanoparticle. These are already available in nature, and it has some source available in nature through which we can extract out easily without any cumbersome processes, without any toxic processes, and we can utilize those molecules as such. So here my topic is concentrating on the preparation of biocomposites, bio nanocomposites. Now, what are basically bio nanocomposites? Bio, as we know, through life, through biological processes. Nanocomposites, the specific sized, nano-sized molecules liberated in such a form by a biological process are biological nanocomposites. So here in the lecture further, I will be talking about the different nanocomposites, and you will see their aspects in the agriculture fields, on the crops. So definitely, when we go for biological approaches, we must take care of the pH, the temperature, the pressure, the conditions, ambient conditions in the treatment sets, the different biological agents which are being used, and different suitable processes where these criteria are very efficient. When we go for such processes, we should take care that the pH, the temperature, and each and every component in the process should be optimized. Because if suppose these factors are getting increased or devastating, definitely we will not be able to control the formation of suitable nanoparticle, and we will not be able to prepare a specific nanoparticle actually. So these processes works only well when such conditions are totally maintained. Now, these particles which are generated by such biological processes have higher catalytic reactivity. They have greater surface area, and they are able to have maximum contact time with the substance. Suppose if I am talking about the cosmetic industry, so I am preparing the nano formulation for cosmetic industry. So that nano formulation should have some properties, that it should have that some contact value to the skin or to the surface through which we are applying that particular formulation. Definitely, if I'm talking about agriculture purposes, so nanopart formulations will be suitable only when they have maximum contact property on the crop, on the particular plant part to a maximum extent, and definitely when it will have maximum contact time, it will work for a significant time period. It will not remove by the water, it will not remove by the rains, etc. So nanoparticles, anyhow, if they are nanoparticles, if they are maintained in a particular nano sizes, they have suitable properties, and these properties should be maintained only when such conditions, such external conditions in the different batches or the fermentation batches are being maintained actually. Now this is about the nanotechnology in agriculture and food sciences. Here the nanoparticles are prepared in as a particle form, they are prepared as a nano emulsion form, they are prepared as a nano composites, they can be prepared as a nano structured materials as per the kind of science or the application in which they are being required. And now the pharmaceutical industry and different agriculture industry and other industries have have preparing delivery and formulation and packaging of different nano formulations. So when they are releasing their biofertilizer or bioinsecticide into the soil or onto the crop, definitely they are also acquiring some formulation part. When as a part of an R&D and production team, I just want to say that to the biological sciences student that when we go for the research purposes, in the academic research, when we are going for the PhDs and postdocs and all, we are just concentrating on a single topic, and we are just going out to the particular study, and we are delivering the results, and we are writing the thesis, making the papers published, and submitting the thesis. Just all. But in industries, we have to be very peculiar about the kind of approach we are doing while formulating or designing a particular substance or a product. So there are different aspects for designing a particular product that I can tell you later. But main thing is that when such product are being prepared by R&D, it has to be commercialized, because the company want the suitable commercialization of that particular product, and they need money for it from it. So they do everything that is suitable for the product preparation, the product stabilization, and further the formulation and the delivery along with the packaging aspects and all. So they try to concentrate on all those things. So nowadays there are not only the formulations which are nano formulations, but also the delivery and the packaging materials which are the part of the nano formulations. So there are packaging and deliveries available through which there are nano sizes through which the specific molecule, the active ingredient or the API, can be easily released into the soil stream or to the body when I am talking about the different aspects. So this nanotechnology is having significant role in agriculture and food sciences. Now coming to the food industry, different organic nano additives are there. There are different inorganic nano additives are there. When you listen, when you see everything, every formulation on the nano formulation on different aspects, you can see the label claim of the particular product. There it is written that it is a nano gel or nano silver or nano what is being used. So it means the particular ingredients, the active ingredients are the nano size particles. So where nanotechnology is not available, it is available in every form, in every technology, in every stream. It is used in the nanosensor, it is used in the nanosprays, by the bioluminescence indications. There are different nano coatings and nanofilms available for different foodstuffs. The food particles are now prepared in the nano form so that it can be easily digested, it can be easily absorbed by the body. There are different agents available. So nanotechnology is being used widely nowadays in agriculture and food technology. Now, what are the suitable applications of nanotechnology in agriculture? So coming to the first point, it is detecting the pathogens. The nanotechnology is used in agriculture for detection of pathogens. The pathogens in the form of bacteria, viruses, or fungi come in on the crop, and they're causing any disease on the crop. So these pathogens have been detected by the nanotechnology measures. and any contaminant detection can be done by these nanotechnology. Tracking of crops and their products, uh, what crop and what particular productivity is there, it is also diagnosed and determined by the nanotechnology for enhancing agriculture productivity. So my today's topic is concentrating on this aspect, enhancing agriculture property and providing insects and pest resistance. So I have taken these two terminology in my study right now for lecture. So enhancing agriculture productivity in terms of growth promotion. Suppose these nanotechnology based formulations are available, microbial formulations are available, which are used as a fertilizer, biofertilizer, and they are a green concept. They are green technologies. They are easily absorbed by the soil and can be readily absorbed by the plants and crops. So enhancing agriculture productivity, uh, definitely providing insects and pest resistance. So different pests, different insects are attacking on the crops through air or through the different contamination means, through different fields they are coming, and through soils. Soil are also there are different pests, different crop pathogens available through which are available on the soil, and they are going onto the crop and they are causing infection. Suppose as fusarium. Fusarium is available in the soil and it is causing a serious diseases in the crops. So these nanotechnology based formulations, if applied on the crops, they are beneficial. If applied in the soil also, they are beneficial. Fifth point is nano devices for molecular and cell biology. Now the cancer research is going on. There are different levels of cancer, upcoming researches in cancer, and there are different nano devices prepared which are diagnosing the different diseases, and they are interpreting what is going in the cell, what chromosomal aberrations have been going in the cell, and they're detecting it. So nanotechnology has been utilized in the devices. There are nanoscale material sciences for engineering. There are different technologies available for environmental issues, for agriculture waste. Uh, as we can see that in environment there is surplus municipal solid waste and city waste is being generated, and the city waste is dumped in the dump yards and is found toxic because it is having lot of contaminants, a lot of toxic elements. So there are nanotechnology formulations which are composting this particular agriculture waste into compost. There are nano-based sensors also available, which are able to diagnose the kind of earthquakes coming, or some kind of any kind of epidemic coming in the environment. Further, nanoscience in agriculture to education to public and future workplace. As I am making you learn all these things, you are definitely going to learn, your students, and you will tell the new crowd that the nanotechnology is having several aspects. Now is about to biological synthesis of nanoparticles. So being concentrated on the biological synthesis, as I have told you that the biological processes is going by the microorganisms and different plant extracts, different plant molecules are there, uh, which are utilized as a reductant in preparation of some suitable nanoparticles. Now, suppose if I have to prepare the silver nanoparticle, suppose you have to prepare the silver nanoparticle, then I can utilize the microorganisms or microbial extracts or microbial metabolites as such, and the plant extracts or plant metabolites as such. Because these technologies are green, these technologies are utilized for as a reducing agent, and it will convert the Ag plus ions into Ag neutral ion, and that will be a kind of nanoparticle. And that nanoparticle will be utilized for agriculture, antimicrobial properties, for anti-pathogenic potential, for insecticidal properties, for different medical appliances, different phytothermal therapies are there, photoimaging, magnicity of responsive drug deliveries. There are diagnosing technologies for diagnosing of human cancer, and there are different based nano sensors based on nanotechnology approaches. So these all are the beautiful examples of nanotechnology based approach. Now, how microorganisms are utilized in the nanotechnology or nanoparticle formation. So my particular topic is concentrated on my use of microorganisms. So how how microorganisms are being utilized. So microorganisms are able to produce the different metabolites. As we know that these metabolites are primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. Primary metabolites are always synthesized for the growth. For example, proteins, peptides, hormones. So these are synthesized by these microorganisms for their growth actually. When these are cultivated in the suitable microbial growth, nutrient broth. What when these microorganisms are going towards a dragging phase, they are getting decayed, or the death is occurring. They are releasing the antibiotics. These are the secondary metabolites. So my research area is the primary metabolite, and I am concentrating on the primary metabolites by using the beneficial microbes. So I have adopted the fermentation technology. Fermentation technology, basically submerged fermentation technology, where we perform the fermentation by using the microorganisms, suitable microorganisms, and in particular nutrient media, in the liquid nutrient media. So there are agriculture supporting organisms which are known as plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. Okay, so the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria are available in the rhizospheric region of the soil, and they are able to secrete some novel metabolites and natural molecules which are able to enhance the growth of the crops. Okay, so these are naturally found in the nature. These are naturally found in the rhizospheric region. Rhizospheric region is the particular region where the root is present. Root is present along with the soil, the bottom part. Okay, so there is a colonization of different microbes which are known as plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. These are beneficial microbes. These are non-pathogenic, and they are helpful for root colonization of the crops. They're able to maintain the vegetative growth of the crops. They are enhancing the leaves, stems, shoot in the crops, etc., etc. So I have used different microbes for releasing the metabolites, and these metabolites are basically in the form of amino acids, phytohormones such as auxins, gibberellic acid, indoleacetic acid. There are natural molecules, peptides, etc. And these are further assessed for growth regulatory activities of different crops. When I'm talking about a growth regulatory activity of crops, I'm talking about the vegetative and the reproductive growth. Now, when I am talking about the vegetative growth, it means the enhancement of the leaves, the enhancement of the shoots, the green part of the crops. And when I'm talking about the reproductive growth, I am talking about the flower growth, the fruits growth, etc. Further, uh, it was assessed for root colonization. Root colonization means when the root is colonized, it is having the strong platform. It is having a strong platform to sustain the growth of the crops. The root colonization activity, and further insecticidal and pesticidal effects. So we have prepared the nano formulation in such a manner so that we have sprayed on the crops, and that those crops are being affected by that particular insect or pest, and such nano formulations, microbial formulations are utilized to destroy those insects and pests. So how we are proceeding towards the nanotechnology formulations by releasing or synthesizing different metabolites via fermentation processes. Now we're coming to nanofertilizers. Nanofertilizers, they are using the nanoscale nutrients to suppress crop size diseases. Different amendment protocols necessary to maximize plant health with a level of infection or absence of pathogen. Different micronutrients are critical in the defense against crop diseases, and they're causing, actually when we are talking about the microorganisms, we require a specific, we require metabolites. So when these microbial extracts or microbial cells are being utilized, different nutrients are provided where these microorganisms get suitably grow in the particular media, and they're able to secrete the different molecules and metabolites, and such metabolites or molecules are extracted out, and these are the nano formulations of the nanofertilizers. These metabolites are basically the primary metabolites. We are taking these metabolites at an advanced stage where the microorganisms are growing the primary stage, and these metabolites are generated by the enzymes, and they require the activation by different micronutrient cofactors. Now these nanoparticle based nutrient formulations are highly the effective novel platforms for crop disease suppression, the yield enhancement through more targeted strategic nutrient based promotion of host resistance. So when we are continuously applying the nano formulations, so these nano formulations prepare or maintain a suitable barrier where different toxic metabolites by the different chemicals gets degraded, and these microorganisms or these metabolites are really able to degrade those toxic metabolites, and they prepare a kind of layer on the crops through which there will be no attack of insects and crops, attacks of insects and pests on the crops. Now, these nanoparticles, as I have told you earlier, that these enter in the plant leaves through stomata and cuticle structures. These are more effectively translocated through xylem and phloem in the plants, and these they are able to maintain the sufficient micronutrient content in the key tissues and will enhance the plant defense in the presence of pathogens. But there are several other factors, as I make you clear, that when in the living system, when such formulations are working, there are different external factors also which can be maintained, which can be stabilized, so that these crops can have significant effect of these nano formulations. Now, non-essential inorganic compounds may play in the activation of host defense mechanism. These may be manganese, copper, zinc. They enhance disease resistance by activating different host defense enzymes in the form of polyphenol oxidases and phenylalanine ammonia lyase. So when manganese, copper, or zinc, they are utilized as a micronutrient by the crops, and such nanoparticles are prepared. So, and such nano formulation, spray is utilized as a foliar spray on the crops. They enhance different antioxidant system in the crops. They enhances the autoimmunity in the crops, and these crops are able to sustain the different attack of pathogens and insects and pests. So such nanoparticles are also being utilized by different farmers in the fields, and the nanoparticles in the form of phosphates, they are enhancing the phosphate content in the soil, and they are also enhancing the phenolic compounds in the crops, so that the phenolic compounds are always related to enhance the antioxidant system in the crops. The antioxidant system is able to relieve the free radicals generated by the attack of insects and pests. So such nano formulations are able to enhance the phenolic compounds as well as enhance the antioxidant system in the crops against different crops pathogens. Now, coming to the nanopesticides, these nanopesticides are able to provide stiffness, the crystallinity, the permeability, biodegradability, large specific area, and the increasing affinity to the target. These are all properties of nanopesticides when such nanopesticides are designed by the R&D. So these all properties should be available in that particular formulation. So when such R&D products are prepared, they are prepared in a small amount. They are further assessed in the labs, in the pot experiments we do, and further they are proceed toward the field trials where they are assessed on different crops as well as in different seasons, in different geographical locations also, where different results of those formulations are helpful for enhancing the stabilization of these nanopesticides and nano promoters. So these nano encapsulated chemicals are there. They are able to release the content in a very small time, slowly, and they are maintaining the stability. They are having the effectiveness. They are not degraded actually. They are able to enhance the target activity. They are least toxic as they are definitely biodegradable. Their effortless mode of delivery is there, and there's repetitive applications. We can apply to a multiple extent. So there's no harm when such nanoformations are applied to the crops to a multiple frequency. Now coming to the particular research aspects of this presentation, we have prepared the nanosilica. The silica, as we know that it is an abundant molecule, and this silica is also found in plants. It is providing a barrier to the on the crops, and it is a kind of barrier which is providing the shield against the insects and crop pest, and is a suitable growth promoter in the soil. So we have prepared the nano formulations of nanosilica, and this silica was also used in the natural form. We have prepared the amorphous silica from the rice husk, and this silica was utilized by silicon solubilized microbes. There are silica solubilized microbes available. These silica solubilized microbes degrade that particular silica and prepare the nanosilica composites. These nanosilica composites are further utilized for as a growth promotion activity, and for the insecticidal and pesticidal agent on the crops. Now these are the results on the brinjal crop. We have seen the vegetative growth, and we have seen the pesticidal effect on the white fly population. So there are white flies coming on the brinjal crop, and these white flies are the common pest on the crop, brinjal crop. So when we are assessing the effect of nanocomposite of silica, we are determining the vegetative growth assessment by determination of shoots, new shoots, branches, the height of the crop, the leaf area. So when we applied the nanosilica formulation in comparison to the control crop, brinjal crop, where no formulation was applied, we found the significant results. The number of shoots were increased with respect to the time. The trials were conducted. The second dosage was done after the 7 days time period, and it was every parameter was enhanced in comparison to control, on which nanosilica composites were not dosed. Okay, the number of shoots were increased by the treatment on nanosilica. The branches were increased by the treatment on nanosilica. The height was increased by the nanosilica. The leaf area was increased by the dosing of nanosilica in comparison to control sets. Now, when talking about the whitefly population, the nanosilica was found to have a significant reduction in the whitefly population. So before application, it was about 7.1 in the nanosilica treated crop, and in the control set before application it was 6.8. So in the control set, it was the whitefly population after 8 days increased to 6.8 to 10.3 only, and when treated with nanosilica, the whiteflies population was not enhanced much in comparison to control. It means these nanosilica composites were able to destroy the whitefly population as well. It was beneficial as a growth promoter, as well as it was beneficial for the insecticidal and pesticidal property on whitefly population on the brinjal crop. Now, these are the photographs, non-treated set and the treated set. We can see the enhancement of the vegetative growth in the treated set by the applying of nanosilica formulation in comparison to the non-treated set. These are the whiteflies photographs. There are many whiteflies we can see before treatment and after treatment of silica formulation. There were reduction of the population of whiteflies. So this table is describing the results of nanosilica formulation as a pesticidal agent on different other pests, Spodoptera litoralis. Different concentrations were maintained, and we determined the effective concentration, the optimum concentration ready to suitable for the destroy of this particular pest, Spodoptera litoralis. This photograph is showing the 3 days after treatment. This is 4 days after treatment of nanosilica. This picture is about 5 days after treatment. This picture is about 6 days of treatment, and this picture is of 7 days of treatment. It means after 7 days of treatment of dosing of nanosilica, this particular pest is completely destroyed, is completely degraded, and this nanosilica formulation can be utilized as a pesticidal agent against this particular crop. Further talking about another nano formulation, we have used the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. These plant growth promoting rhizobacteria nanometabolites, the kind of, as I told you earlier in my previous slides, that there are biological agents, there are biological bacteria, they are beneficial bacteria, they are known as plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. They are able to secrete novel metabolites, natural molecules, and these novel metabolites or natural molecules are nano particles actually, and they are able to induce the systematic resistance in the plants as well as systemic acquired resistance in the plants. So they are able to secrete such metabolites which are able to destroy the crops as well, and they are destroying the crop. They are destroying the pest on the crops as well, and they are destroying the pest by induced systemic resistance and systemic acquired resistance. So these are the two concepts of pest control on the crops. Induced systemic resistance occurs when the suitable plant growth promoting rhizobacteria uh, is able to affect directly the soil-borne pathogen or the crop-based pathogen when it is applied on the crop or in the soil. Suppose it is protection of the crop by Pseudomonas fluorescens against Fusarium oxysporum. That is an induced systemic resistance. When we are dosing the Pseudomonas fluorescens in the soil, it is readily destroying the Fusarium oxysporum present in the soil. Second example, rhizobacterial strains, PGPR strains are protecting the leaves in the foliar spray where they are treating against anthracnose caused by Culottotrichum orbicularia. So this Culottotrichum is causing anthracnose disease in the plants, crops, and when such a PGPR strains foliar spray is introduced on the crop, it is destroying the this particular pathogen and is also causing the limitation of anthracnose disease. Now, what is SAR? Systemic acquired resistance. Systematic acquired resistance is activation of some genes in the crops, some metabolic pathways in the crops, which are able to induce or express some enzymes, some growth factors, or some controlling factors by the crops to make the pest destroy against that particular crop. So systemic acquired resistance is performed when some bacteria, some plant growth promoting rhizobacteria or beneficial bacteria is causing the signaling pathways, and the signaling pathways in the crops are able to secrete some molecules which are synthesized by the genes, and these molecules are able to destroy that particular crop. So this is systemic acquired resistance. So induced systemic resistance and systemic acquired resistance, they are both the defense system of the plants, crops, and they are induced by different means. Now this is the rhizospheric region where we can see different growth of biofactories of different plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. They may be potash mobilizing bacteria, they may be sulfur mobilizing bacteria, they may be any kind of fungicidal agent, they may be symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria, non-symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria, they may be iron, zinc, sulfur solubilizing bacteria. So these all bacteria, plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, are present in the rhizospheric region of the crops, and they are able to secrete several molecules which are able to help the crops against the diseases and sustain the growth promotion activity in the crops. What are PGPR's roles? Actually, they are able to absorb nitrogen if they are nitrogen fixing bacteria. They are able to dissolve insoluble mineral phosphates. They are able to secrete hydrophores, secrete phytohormones, synthesis of hydrogen cyanides. That is another antagonistic molecule against the pathogens. Induced the reduction in the synthesis of ethylene, actually, which inhibits the nodal formation. They are causing the antagonistic behaviors, etc. So this is about all the properties of the PGPRs on the crops: nitrogen fixation, hormone production, rhizomediation, nitrogen uptake, hydrophore production, neutralization. So all these metabolites are actually the biometabolites only. These are the nanoparticle based formulations, and these metabolites are utilized as such on the crops in the form of formulation, or can be utilized to develop a suitable formulation or a particular product. So these particle based formulations are effective in growth promotion activity, and we can upscale these nano formulations in large vessels and large reactors and fermenters, through which we can generate as many much quantity of these metabolites, through which we can prepare the plant growth promoters or insecticidal and pesticidal agents. Further, these all molecules released by the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria were assessed for the growth promotion activities, the root colonization assays. Uh, so we can see here the root colonization properties of these PGPRs. So these are able to secrete the novel metabolites. These are able to secrete the novel molecules which are which are nanoparticle based formations, natural formulations, I can say, which are inducing the colonization of the roots. So this is a most important specific behavior of root by PGPR cultures. This another picture we can see the root colonization in the maize. This is the picture showing the root colonization in the gram seeds. Here we can see that there is specific vascular mycorrhiza is enhancing the growth of crops. But when a specific PGPR other than VAM is combined with the VAM and introduced in the soil to allow the growth of crops, we can see that there is a maximum fibrous generation, development of fibrous roots in the crops. It means there is microbial to microbial interaction, microbe interaction, you can say. So this microbe interaction is also able to generate the novel molecules and metabolites, and these are all nano-sized metabolites which are readily absorbed by the soil as well as the crops for sustaining the growth as well as reducing the insects and pest attack. Now this picture is stating the different treatment sets of different PGPRs on height, leaves, root, and yellowing appearance on the crops. And we determined that there are different PGPRs isolated which are able to generate the microfibrous pattern in the roots. So this was all about all because of the novel metabolites and nanometabolites secreted by these PGPRs. Further, we have assessed these metabolites, nanometabolites for the fungicidal action. So these are the culture plates of the crop pathogens, crop fungal pathogens coming on the crops, and we found that these nanoformulations are having a suitable antifungal activity against these particular pathogens coming on the crop. There are different pathogens studied in this study. Now coming towards the different another kind of nanoparticle, curcumin nanoparticle. Now this nanoparticle, curcumin is a novel agent found in Cucurbita longa, haldi, commonly known as haldi, and it is we very well know that this haldi is a very widely known medicinal herb and is having significant pharmacological properties and is having antimicrobial, antioxidant, antiviral, antipathogenic, and different properties are there. So we have extracted out the curcumin from Cucurbita longa, and we have prepared the nanoparticles of curcumin, and these nanoparticles were assessed to determine the activities on different crops and pathogens. So this slide we can see that this is a curcumin extract, and when we prepare the nanoparticle, out of it the curcumin based nanoformulations prepared, and we have assessed the antifungal potential of these nanoparticles against different pathogens. Okay, so in between this slide, just coming towards the potential risk of nanotechnology. So as I can say that there are several positive and beneficial aspects of nanotechnology and nano-based formulations in agriculture and in growth of the crops, as well as in reducing the insects and pest attack. But at the same time, there are potential risk of nanotechnology as well, because each formulation we apply on the crops or on the food particles or on the food producing plants, we should be very well aware that these nanoformulation should be dosed in a suitable amount only, because although these are biodegradable, but anyhow these nanoformulations, if are available in larger dosing forms, so these nanoparticle formulations can cause serious diseases to the crops as well, and can destroy the crop productivity, and simultaneously can lead to several diseases within ourselves as well. So before providing these nanoformulations to farmers, we should aware them that these nanoformulations have suitable dosage, suitable stability time period, they have suitable effectiveness again in comparison to chemicals. And when when such nano formulations are endorsed to the crops, we should also let them aware that no chemical based fertilizer should apply on these fields, on the crops as well. Because if suppose we are applying the chemicals also, these nanoparticle based formulations will destroy, and there will be no effect of such nano formulations on the crops in terms of vegetative reproductive growth and on limitization of the insects of pest. So coming to this these potential risks, nanoparticles on biological systems and the environment leads to toxicity generated by the free radicals, leading to lipid peroxidation and DNA damage. These can also cause chromosomal aberrations within us and can lead to cancer if suppose if not given in a specific amount to the crops. Because some people think that if suppose such formulation can be given in larger amount to larger extent in the soil or to the crops, they can cause maximum productivity in the crops and can destroy maximum number of pathogens. But it is not true, because each and every biological formulation is having a specific stability time, a specific half-life period is there. So we should be aware about it, and we should optimize the doses of such formulations. And these dosages will always vary as per the climatic conditions as well, as per the soil conditions as well. If suppose any and also to the crops as well. Suppose if a brinjal crop is having such a specific formulation dose that will not be similar to the other crop, or two different pests will have different treatment doses as well. Two different seasons, summer seasons will have different dosages, winter season will have different dosages. Okay, and the absorption time period is also different as per the geographical locations also, depending on the external or ambient conditions also. So there's much needed right now in this particular technology in terms of agriculture and food for food industry for optimizing the doses and to determine the biosafety levels of these nanoparticles. So coming to second point, these nanosilver, suppose if you have produced nanosilver formulations, they can cause chemical injuries on the tested plants. Different high doses of these materials are associated with lung diseases and inflammation in humans. Related to health aspects, if we inhale or swallow or these nanoparticles absorb through skin, some people may get allergies or some rashes or some kind of inflammation may occur. They trigger the inflammation and can weaken the immune systems as well. These interfere with regulatory mechanisms of enzymes and proteins within our body and can destroy our metabolic profile as well. Okay, within the environment as such, these are not harmful, but if any toxic metallic ion is utilized to prepare such nanoparticles, they can accumulate in the soil for a longer period of time interval and can lead to toxicity, soil toxicity, and can lead to severe toxic effects on the crops. So with the passage of the time study, as we are studying on the nanoparticles and we are developing and formulating different nano formulations, we should also study about the new risk assessment methods along with the previous methods to optimize these particles and to determine each other parameters to determine the quality control of it. Okay, there are national, international agencies. They are working on it, and they are studying the risk of these nanoparticles in the environment as well as in the crops. And different studies and different results will also lead to new regulations in the nanotechnological research and will generate new avenues. And definitely nanotechnology, at the last I can say, this nanotechnology is very beneficial, can be utilized in a very less amount in comparison to other formulation, other products, and can be easily absorbed to the soil and can be easily absorbed by the crop and can sustain the growth of the crops. It can have significant effects, pesticidal effects, insecticidal effects on the crops, and can lead to suitable sustainable agriculture development and enhancement of agriculture productivity. So at the last, I just want to say that thank you so much. Thank you so much to the organizers and the team for organizing such a wonderful event and providing me an opportunity to speak on this concerned topic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, any doubt, sir? Any doubt? Participants, any doubt, sir?
Please, anyone, any of the participants or any listeners have some questions, kindly let me know.
So,
Yeah, tell me. Yeah, tell me.
so do we have any nano fertilizers available in the market already?
Yes, definitely. There are people working on nano formulations, and we are also providing the nano formulations based products. But anyhow, right now in FCO norms, we are not liable to sell the nano formulation in on the name of nano based formulations in agriculture. I'm talking about agriculture. There are formulations available in the pharmaceutical industry. You must be aware of it. But we can not sell right now because we are not having a license, and the government is not providing us the license to any of the agriculturists to sell the nano formulations, because right now this nanotechnology field in agriculture is still growing, and we have to do much more to determine the stabilization and different efficacy studies actually, okay, on the different insects and crops. So we can sell the nano formulation, but we cannot sell on the base of the label formulation as nano formulation like this.
Okay, sir. So, but now we have locust attack overall India. So, can we suggest having nano fertilizers or pesticides instead of using the conventional ones?
Yeah, this is a green concept. As we are, if suppose if you develop the nanoparticles by green technology, as I stated earlier, the use of microorganisms, plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, plant extracts, etc. Definitely, these nanoparticles are very miraculous, because these are utilized in the very less amount, and they are not toxic. They are biodegradable. Okay, so we should aware the people that we should come to the green concept, green technologies. Now the country is changing, and we should adopt new technologies which are environment friendly. We should make aware the farmers as well, and to the learned persons as well, to the people as well, to so that they should not use chemical fertilizers and should not toxic the soil as such. Okay, so we should there is a need for all the youngsters, for all the people to make aware that these people that now this is a time for nanotechnology as well as for the green concept, green technologies, and we should start using the green concepts. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So awareness very, very much required actually.
Sir, this is Guru Prasad calling from Hyderabad. Sir, is there any nanoparticle which is showing a defense mechanism in plants, sir?
Yes, as I stated, silica nanocomposites. So different companies are selling silica nanoparticle based formulations, and silica is a good fertilizer as well. It can be easily applied in the soil, but commonly it is now being utilized as foliar spray on the crops, and it is controlling lot many population of aphids, jassids, mites, and spiders, and different kinds of white flies, as I stated here. So lot many insects and pest population are being controlled by silica. So I can state you that silica is being used by different industries.
So what about this botanical extract, sir? Can we reduce those things into nanoparticles and we can use as a defense mechanism?
Yeah, definitely. When this nanotechnology was not in existence, we were using different plant extracts, and still different people are using plant extracts. Botanical extracts are there, neem extracts they are using, citronella extracts, the lemongrass extract is there. But anyhow, it is also costing to a maximum extent. It is very costly actually. The oils are very costly, and some people are using the ivermectin. Different other phytochemicals are they are using for reducing the attack of insects and pests. Okay, so they are using, but anyhow they are not getting that particular results, viable results, when much dilution of this particular product occurs or the oils occurs, and anyhow, with the passage of the time also, and with the passage of the season also, climatic season also, it is getting destroyed. The oils are getting destroyed. The phytochemicals present within it are getting destroyed by the nature, by the heat, etc., by the sunlight. So these plant extracts and botanical extracts are not found significant nowadays for reducing the attack of insects and pests.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah. Please tell me.
Sir, is there any nanoparticles before studying? We have to check the acidity of the soil. You know, is there any nanoparticles used in studying the reducing the acidity of a soil?
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Regarding the acidity of the soil. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is no
Because
nanoparticle. There is no
because it
nanoparticle.
plays yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please tell me. Please tell me. Please tell me.
Because acidity plays a major role for the improvement of the soil. You know, if the acidity increases, when there is no cultivation, we can't do this one. So, is there anything is available for reducing that acidity of a soil?
Mm-hmm. I am very much agreed with you. Your lines. Actually, the acidity also and salinity also both are destroying the crops, and they are not able to allow the crops to grow. Yeah. So there is no nanoparticle as such, but we are providing the solutions to the fields where maximum toxicity is there. Suppose maximum acidity, if we have maximum acidity in the soil, we are sending the product which is much alkaline. Okay, there are different PGPRs which are reducing the acidity in the soils. Okay, we are not at that time we are not sending the nano-based formulation, but we are sending the nano formulation in such a manner where the bacteria is able to secrete the novel metabolites, and these metabolites will degrade the toxic acidity. Okay, or enhance the alkalinity in the soil. So there is no nanoparticle as such, or nanoparticle based for product as such, which is able to enhance the alkalinity or reduce the toxic acidity in the soil. They are the microbes available which are able to do that particular work. And I just want to add one more thing here. We are also supplying different products which are utilized by the farmers, which are having toxic soils. Because when people are not aware of the biological fertilizers, they were using the chemicals. Okay, they were using the chemicals. They were using urea, and different chemicals were used. Okay, so that chemicals is also causing some toxicity in the soil. So there are microorganisms, or there are PGPRs who are able to secrete such metabolite, such enzymes, which are degrading that chemical pesticide pollutant in the soil. So we have developed that particular product in the form of a trade name Teamwork, where different microbial consortia is there, different microbes are there, and their microbes are trained in such a manner they are united in such a manner in a single product that they are able to release the metabolites which are able to degrade the toxic pollutants in the soil. So we have found good results in some soil, some fields where the chemical fertilizers were being used. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions? So thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable presentation, sir. So thank you so much. So Kalakalanji.
Thank you so
Sir.
much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Kalakalanji. So wait up the session.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your mind-blowing speech. We have understand and grasped a lot of things from your speech, sir. I would like to inform that tomorrow's session is on the topic Application of Nanotechnology in Textile and Agriculture by Dr. Shakti Pandian. Thank you all.
So thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.